The invitation never came. Thanksgiving passed, so did Christmas, and by New Year's, it was clear they weren't going to say it, but the silence was loud. No, come by. Mama? No, we'll set a plate for you. Just photos online, smiling faces, matching pajamas, twinkling trees, and not a trace of me. I kept refreshing the screen like a fool, hoping maybe I'd missed something. But no. My own son, Marcus, had cut me out of his holidays like I was some loose thread ruining the fabric of his life. All I saw were pictures of his wife's family. Big table. Fancy china. People in suits and cocktail dresses. They looked like the front of a magazine. Like they didn't need anyone. Who smelled like cornbread and carried church fans in their purses. They looked like they had no room for an old woman who still ironed her napkins and hummed gospel when she cooked. I remembered. When they first bought that house, Marcus was scared. Said, the mortgage would be tight. I said, don't you worry, baby. Mama got you. I pulled from my pension, sold my wedding ring, cashed in a small life insurance policy that your daddy left me, and just like that, they had a down payment. Didn't ask for credit, didn't make a fuss, just said, this house is for our family. I thought that meant me, too. But turns out they meant her family, her mother, her sister, her country club friends with fake laughs and too much perfume. I was welcome when they needed wiring fixed, walls painted, checks signed, but not when the camera was rolling and the candles were lit. I remember the last time I walked into that house. Isabella, my daughter-in-law, looked at my shoes first. Not at me, at my shoes. I had worn my Sunday flats, the ones with the little gold buckle. She smiled, but her eyes rolled before her lips did. Marcus hugged me, but barely squeezed, like he was holding a damp towel. I stayed for 23 minutes. Didn't even take off my coat. I told them I had something on the stove, but the only thing boiling was inside me, and it had been cooking for a long, long time. Now they say I'm forgetful, that I'm bitter, that I don't get it, but I got it real clear. You don't invite someone into your life only when it's convenient, and you don't erase the one who built your foundation, because one day, that foundation might just shake and baby. I still remember where every brick was laid. 2 days after New Year's, I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a pen that barely had ink. I wasn't sure where to start, so I wrote one word at the top. Receipts. Then I went to the drawer. You know the one. The drawer no one ever opens unless they need scissors or stamps, but mine held years of folded bank slips, check copies, handwritten IOUs, and notes from Marcus that started with, "Thanks again, Mama." I spread them across the table like puzzle pieces, and piece by piece, I remembered $500 for the down payment, $850 for the busted water heater, $300 here, $200 there, grocery bills when Isabella was on maternity leave. That credit card I co-signed and paid off when they had a rough patch. The private school application fee, the backyard fence. The living room couch they said they couldn't afford, but somehow had in their next Instagram post. All of it, right there in ink. In total, $41,673.12. And that didn't include the casseroles, the babysitting, the gas money, the prayers. Those were free, but I made a note beside each big item. No strings, but not invisible. Because I never wanted anything back. Not then. But now I wanted them to remember. I made 3 copies of everything, one for me, one for Marcus, and one, just in case. Then I went online. Reset. Passwords, checked bank statements, found out they were still using that emergency fund I'd set up just in case the kids ever got sick, but they weren't sick, they were skiing. I printed the photo. There they were. Coats, goggles, matching smiles. No room for old mama there. Snow doesn't go well with arthritis anyway. I called my lawyer next. "Rowena," he said, "you sure about this?" Not about revenge, I said. About respect. He didn't ask again. We drafted a letter. Polite, professional. It said, "As you are aware, Mrs. Rowena Davis has supported her son and daughter-in-law financially over the course of the last 8 years. In light of recent events, she requests formal acknowledgement and clarity regarding these contributions. Nothing threatening, no lawsuit, just clarity. Let them squirm a little. Let them wonder how much I really remember. Because here's the thing. They think memory is just what you forget, but sometimes memory is what you decide to never forget." That night, I folded the copies neatly, placed them in 3 envelopes, tied them with gold ribbon, and set them next to the fruit bowl, ready to mail. One final gift from Mama, wrapped in truth. The letters landed on their doorstep on a Tuesday. I didn't call to check, didn't text to ask, I just waited. And by Thursday, my phone started ringing. First it was Marcus, missed call, then another, then a voicemail. "Mama, we got something in the mail from a lawyer. I don't really know what's going on. Can you call me back?" I didn't, not yet. On Friday, Isabella tried. She never calls me, ever. But now, she left a message with just 4 words. "This is very inappropriate. No hello, no apology, just..." That same fake smile voice trying to control the room like always. But this wasn't her room anymore. This was mine. I spent the weekend organizing more papers, not to send just for me old. Calendars, Christmas cards, pictures they used to send with Marcus, Junior in a little bow tie. There were years they loved me, loudly, before they got rich in image. I remembered birthdays where I brought the whole cake and still offered to wash the dishes. I remembered the night I slept in a hospital chair while they were too tired to hold their own newborn. But memories don't pay you back, so I let them go. By Monday, Marcus showed up at my door. No call, no warning. He looked tired, less proud, less clean. Like the house wasn't quite as shiny without my quiet hands behind the curtain. He held the envelope in his hand. "I didn't think you kept all this." He said. I didn't invite him in, just stood in the doorway. "I kept it," I said. "Because I thought it mattered." He looked down. "Was this really necessary?" "No," I said. But neither was forgetting me. He didn't speak, just folded the letter again. "I'm not mad," I said. "Then why does this feel like punishment?" "Because guilt always feels like that, baby, even when the truth is polite." The next morning, an email arrived from a joint account. Subject line, clarification and apology. It started with pleasantries, then came the heart of it. "We acknowledge the extensive support you've provided to our family. It was never our intention to make you feel excluded or undervalued. We deeply regret if any of our actions conveyed. Otherwise, that if told me everything. Still avoiding ownership, still trying to lawyer their love. But I didn't need more words, I just needed peace." That evening, I wrote one last thing in my yellow pad. They sent back words, I sent them memory. Now we're even. After the email, things went quiet again. Not the same silence as before, this one had weight. Not absence, but caution. Like they knew any wrong word would echo louder now. I didn't respond. There was no need. I wasn't interested in negotiating feelings they hadn't bothered to protect in the first place. This wasn't about emotions anymore. It was about recognition and boundaries. That week, I went to the credit union where I had once helped them open a joint education fund for the kids. It was still in my name as secondary contributor. The clerk smiled when she saw my ID. "Do you want to make changes to the beneficiaries?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "Remove Marcus and his household. I'll set up something separate." She didn't ask why. I think she could tell I wasn't just making a financial shift, I was cutting a tie. Next, I called the tax office and removed my name as guarantor on the second property line I had signed as a favor when they refinanced. "They told us you were just helping temporarily," the clerk said. That help has expired, I replied. I filled out the forms, signed, dated, and left the office with no more handcuffs pretending to be handouts. By Thursday, I had written a new will. Short, clean, no mess. My savings, modest but stable, would go to Olivia, my great niece who called me every week just to hear my voice. Not because she wanted anything. Just because she saw me, there was no anger in my choices. Just clarity. I wasn't trying to ruin anyone's comfort. I was simply reclaiming mine. I donated the gold-rimmed china set they never let me use to the church's community center. The one they always said didn't fit the style of their dining room. It fits just fine on folding tables where people eat with gratitude instead of filters. I threw away the guest towel set they bought me 3 Christmases ago, the one still wrapped in plastic. They never visited long enough for me to use it. That weekend, I took myself out to brunch, sat by the window, wore my Sunday hat. I ordered peach cobbler and a plate of scrambled eggs that tasted like peace. The waitress asked, "Are you celebrating something?" I said, "Yes, I'm celebrating the end of being taken for granted." She laughed. But I wasn't joking. That night, I slept with my door locked and my spirit open. I wasn't erased. I was restored. 3 months later, I got a card in the mail. It had flowers on the front, pink lilies and soft violets and gold foil around the edges. Inside, in Marcus's handwriting, it said, "Thinking of you. Hope to reconnect soon." There was no apology, no mention of what had happened, no acknowledgement of what had changed. Just a safe sentence meant to open a door without walking through it. I set it on the counter and left it there. I didn't need flowers drawn by a stranger. I needed my son to see the woman he forgot to thank for everything he stood on. I had spent years funding their dreams, cheering from the background, holding babies, and patching up their grown-up mistakes. I did it with a smile. I did it because I believed that family meant showing up no matter what. But now I understood, showing up for people who only open the door when it's convenient isn't loyalty. It's erasure. The only ones who came by now were people who didn't need anything from me. Miss Carla from church brought sweet potato pie and sat with me on the porch. My neighbor Luther helped me fix the hinge on the back gate without waiting for a thank you. Olivia still called every Sunday evening just to talk about her dog or school or what she wanted to be when she grew up. I told her, "Be loud, baby. Never shrink to fit anyone's silence." She said, "I won't. Auntie Ro, I promise." I believed her. One morning, I walked to the small patch of garden behind my house, the one Marcus once called messy because it didn't match the landscaping he saw on TV. It was blooming. Not perfect, not symmetrical, but full of life. Just like me, I planted new seeds that week. Not just in the soil, but everywhere. I signed up to volunteer at the local library, donated old clothes to the women's shelter, started writing again. This time not in a legal pad, but in a proper journal, leather-bound, my name etched on the cover. I wrote the stories they never wanted to hear. The nights I cried quietly in the laundry room after being dismissed at a dinner table. The Sundays I spent alone in a house I helped pay for. The birthdays forgotten. The phone calls unanswered. The kind of forgetting that doesn't come from disease, but from disregard. But I also wrote about the strength it took to stay. The power it took to walk away. The pride that grew back after years of being pruned down to just mama. I wasn't just anything. I was everything. They never sent another email. I heard from a cousin that Isabella had been telling people I was going through something. Maybe I was. Maybe I was going through the process of remembering my own worth. And maybe that's exactly what scared them. 6 months after I mailed those letters, I stood on my porch, watching the mailman come up the walkway. He handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a legal notice. Marcus and Isabella were refinancing the house again. My name was officially removed. No note, no call. Just paperwork. Just numbers. I smiled. That was all I ever wanted. For them to stop pretending I didn't matter while still using everything I gave them. I made sweet tea that afternoon. Sat on the porch swing. Wore my wide brim hat. The sun was soft on my shoulders. The breeze didn't ask questions. And for the first time in years, my body didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a place that belonged to me. They thought I was too old, too traditional, too embarrassing to bring around their polished friends. But I was never the problem. I was the foundation. The reason they had chairs to sit in and food to serve. Now they can serve themselves, because I'm done giving to people who only clap when others are watching. I don't need applause. I just need peace. And baby, I finally got it.